8mm. Pop, pop. Don't ever call me again.
See the same people every other day, but we never say hey, cause we're never looking the way, or my face was in my notebook. We passed each other, didn't look. But these are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, big small towns, overlapping side by side, big small towns. I see new people every day. Everyone's on their way, doing the things that failed their day. And I'm going places too, doing the things that I do with my time. We are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, big small towns, diagonal, top to bottom, big small towns. Be nice to the people of the towns. Once in a while look around, cause what's going around's coming around. What came around's coming around. What's going around's coming around. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around the big small towns.
Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do this show live almost every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. We did not do this show last Tuesday. It was over 100 degrees at 7:30 p.m. last Tuesday, so we did not do that.
Sweat in your crack. Sweat all up in your crack. Who wants to do a radio or a TV or a podcast or a Twitch-a-cast with sweat in your crack? It's just not, it's not conducive to good broadcasting as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, we made the executive decision to save ourselves and save our listener and viewer from that tragedy that would have been down ballot in that kind of heat. But this week we're back and we have a docket that's so full. I'm sure we're not going to get through all of it in the next hour plus, but we are certainly going to try. And we thank you all for being here to watch us attempt to do so. And I just have to say, we tried for so long, I think, to think about like a jingle for this show, right? A little intro music. And really, like that, Model Rocket Scientist really just knocked it out of the park. Like that, Big Small Towns. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. They are local, and it really just encapsulates everything that the show's all about. Love that song.
And not for nothing, they also like don't reply to our emails and don't want to come on the fucking show. So they're not their music is great and they're too good for us for local love. So shout out to fucking to Model Rocket Scientist. That song is real good. Just real quick, if there's any technical hiccups, that's the way it goes. I completely overhauled the software in the studio last night. We got the councilman piping in through higher quality sound, and he has a better quality video feed going out to him. And things are always just looking up and looking better around here until like maybe the system crashes. But I don't think that'll happen. It's built on top of Linux. It ain't going anywhere. So what do we have for leading off?
Well, that's a fantastic question. Well, as you might have heard, marijuana recently was legalized in the state of California, and San Francisco, being the progressive capital of the world that it is, decided they were going to get ahead of the game and take it a step further on the drug decriminalization front. So let's hear what they have going on up there. It's psychedelic.
Psychedelic drugs such as mushrooms are now decriminalized in San Francisco. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors approved the resolution this week. The measure says arresting people for using, growing, and distributing plant-based psychedelics should be the lowest law enforcement priority. It also says that city resources should not be used for investigations tied to the use of psychedelics.
Fuck yeah.
That was a gang of shrooms right there.
They had the most.
You could have some fun in Vegas with just one of those bags.
They had the most.
For sure. So I guess they said plant-based, right? So I got a little excited when I first heard this story, and they said they're legalizing psychedelics, or at least decriminalizing psychedelics. And I'm like, oh, so acid would also be legit. Acid and fapping possibly, but no, unfortunately, just shrooms for now, and anything plant-based. So I guess that means peyote's cool.
Yeah, I guess like it makes sense. Like, I don't know, like I don't like mushrooms myself, but other people enjoy them, and I certainly don't think people should get in trouble with the cops for doing it. Fuck that.
I've certainly for sure. I've certainly had a grand old time on mushrooms. I've had some pretty bad trips on psychedelics too, but usually that's been on acid. Shrooms, I've generally had a good time. The worst time you ever have on shrooms is really after, and your stomach is just reminding you that you just ingested poison. That probably wasn't a good idea, right? But it felt good at the time. So
it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Correct. And now we are seeing that psychedelics and these type of substances are being used for deep therapy, right? And trauma therapy. So, more power to folks, and I hope we get more research out of this. The more decriminalization, the more legalization you get of these drugs that we really haven't studied, frankly, because there's just been this fear factor and just this stigma on them for so long. The more of that we have, the more research we can get, and the more we can find out about the possibly healing and positive aspects of these drugs. It's not just about getting high and seeing your late grandmother walking around in her skivvies. It's about really expanding your mind, in some cases healing your body. So let's do it.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but I do know that like it's dumb to arrest people for like taking mushrooms.
That's for sure. Well, speaking of dumb, how much would you pay for a parking spot, Producer Dave?
In San Francisco, how much money am I making at the building, like where the parking spot is?
I mean, if you're paying for this parking spot, you're probably doing pretty well. You're working. You're not Peter Thiel, but you're working for him. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. But that's probably what you'd have to be doing to afford this parking spot. And it's just the parking spot too. This is not the apartment that goes with it. Just the parking spot.
Housing costs are already hard enough to swallow, but we've got a listing for you. You are not going to believe the price tag. It's like forking over a king's ransom just to park in San Francisco. Look at that, $90,000 parking spot. Today in the Bay's Ginger Conejero Saab live in the city this morning. This doesn't even come with a 2-bedroom condo tacked onto it, Ginger.
Oh, no, that's $1 million.
Laura, maybe you can counter with that. I don't know how far it'll get you, but this listing is shocking to some, not as shocking to others, because for one, this particular condo building has done it before. A couple years ago, a similar parking spot sold for $90,000 at 88 Townsend. Now, the realtor that we spoke to said that prices for parking spots have actually gone down because of the pandemic, but now that people are starting to go back to work at least several times a year, they believe, or a week rather, they believe that there is value in parking your money in this investment. Nonetheless, it still raises eyebrows because $90,000 will get you, well, much more in other parts of the country. But take a look at the listing. It says it is currently being leased for $300 a month, which is, well, pretty typical in the city. The spot boasts of being on the ground floor and pretty near the lobby. It can be used by a non-resident, which we're told is rare, and it is a block away from Oracle Park. Now, the reason we don't see more listings like this is because in most cases, an HOA may not allow homeowners to sell parking spots separately. This building is an exception to that. But what does this listing say about making it in the Bay? Some experts are saying it's a buyer's market. The realtor we spoke to says she's optimistic about the city's busiest real estate season of the year.
We saw a lot of people holding their listings until after Labor Day. So this is really kind of the kickoff, the start of the market. And we're already seeing some activity. And talking to a lender friend, she was also seeing a lot of activity in terms of deals potentially coming, pre-approvals, of course, seeking by sellers and buyers. So,
audio,
I do think that we're going to have a
That is their audio, yeah.
And rates have kind of stabilized a little bit, which certainly is going to help
lady
buyers
say,
right now.
I mean, that is optimistic. The listing says that it was put on the market 163 days ago, which probably doesn't show that it's in such high demand, at least from the seller's perspective. I don't know, Laura, would you fork over $90,000 for this parking spot?
Yeah, I mean, could you put a tent on it maybe? At least you'd have coverage, you know?
But it's pretty near the lobby.
I don't know. Yeah, no kidding. All right.
That is a plus.
Thanks, Ginger. What a unique story there.
Yeah.
All right.
What a unique story, Councilman.
Seriously, very
We've been
unique,
talking about
quite
the
unique,
migration
quite
problem
different.
at our southern border
well,
for a while.
so I don't know if you would pay. I mean, that's a sale price, right? So that you own the spot at that point. You can do whatever you want with it, sublease it, whatever, right? So $90K. If you figure someone's leasing at $300 a month, that's $3,600 a year ish, right? And I'm sure that's only going to go up in terms of cost in San Francisco year over year, right? So you're kind of banking on getting bang for your buck here and being in that and making that an investment over time, right? So it's real estate and it's parking, and they're both very valuable in San Francisco. So I'm not surprised by this. If it's a block from Oracle Park, I can tell you they can make their money back if they don't have a car, just leasing it or renting it out during Giants games or Warriors games. That would be perfectly useful. Probably make them pretty good amount of money and good return on their investment. So. But that's where we're at this point. This is what they call untethered parking.
So I wonder, what happens when somebody sells their condo? I guess they just don't sell the parking space at the condo. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is what they call. This is a little extreme. This is not what you commonly see, where you're actually purchasing. You can actually have the option to purchase a space separately from your condo, right, or your housing unit. But we're seeing more and more untethered parking. And this is actually popular amongst developers. It's popular amongst environmentalists and urban planners because it reduces the carbon footprint. It forces more people to, think of public transit options and not have a car. A lot of times when you would get an apartment, right, you would get a parking spot with that apartment. Part of your rent, right, covered the parking spot, right, ostensibly, even if whether they broke it out or not. In a lot of cases nowadays, they're not tethering the apartment rent to a spot, right? So it's a lottery in some cases, or if you have a car, you can put into the lottery or you can put in for a spot, but you're not guaranteed a spot with your rent, and you're paying a separate fee on top of your rent to have the spot. So this is a more extreme case where the HOA actually let them buy the spot, and I guess it could be that you have a condo and you don't have a car, and fuck it, if you have the money, invest in the parking spot and then sublease it out, I guess. In this case, they want to just sell it and get rid of it. So maybe they're moving out, but they want to, maintain that valuable parking property. So it's just where it's at right now, in terms of people's real just obsession with their rides and their whips, right, and being able to drive places in their cars.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't really understand it. But I mean, like, whatever. If somebody wants to buy that parking space for $90,000, fucking let them.
Oh, I can't fault the person selling it, especially, right? Like, shit, if someone's, I mean, it's been on the market for 163 days, so they might want to think about bringing the price down a little bit. But if they can sell it for, tens of thousands of dollars a parking spot, like, yeah, more power to you. Have fun with it. Go to Vegas. Enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, what's our next story?
Well, moving on in winners and losers, where there generally are no winners, and even if there are, that's not the people you want to win. The FAA has decreed that an encampment of our unhoused neighbors in San Jose near the airport, a lot of you all may have seen it. It's just off of Heading and Taylor up there in the airport flight path. They've decreed that it's a public safety hazard to have people living in the flight path that close to the airport. So they've asked the city of San Jose, or pretty much demanded that the city of San Jose clear the site. And unfortunately, that's happening this month, and we're going to see an update on what's going down.
Coming eventually, they just weren't expecting it today. Nearly 200 people living at a homeless encampment near SJC got a startling wake up this morning. City crews moved in, started clearing out the site. NBC Bay Area's Tom Jensen spoke with some of the residents who questioned the timing and what they say was a lack of fair warning.
Residents we talked to said they were shocked when city workers rolled in this morning in trucks pulling trailers that were loaded with dumpsters and heavy equipment. And by 8, they were already going to work, pulling up everything from cars to makeshift homes and crushing them on site. Residents of San Jose's Guadalupe Gardens homeless encampment said they never expected to wake up to the sounds of heavy equipment on a Saturday morning.
Destroying trailers, motorhomes, just chewing them up and spit them out.
A former resident who lives in an apartment now says she was visiting her boyfriend this morning when that equipment started getting closer and closer to their RV.
It felt like I better let them know that we're in the RV because they might just take it out.
They told us they were surprised because they thought they would have more time to clear out and never believed they'd be thrown out over the weekend with no warning.
We've known for a while that this has been coming. However, we were under the impression that we had until the end of the month.
City officials tell NBC Bay Area the FAA mandated them to clean up the site or face the possibility of losing federal funding, and began the initial cleanup last year. And since March, they have removed more than 1.3 million pounds of debris and at least 84 cars and trucks that didn't run. Meanwhile, a local nonprofit group that provides interim housing and on-site showers and toilets and laundry services said they'll continue to help even after this encampment is cleared.
We'll look and see where we need the most and be willing to go there. We'll also be willing to try to help the people who were here. We have other resources where we have counseling and counselors that come out and help.
A spokesperson for the city manager's office says San Jose outreach teams have already helped about 150 people from the encampment find interim permanent housing, and they continue to seek shelters for the remaining residents. She says she expects the 40-acre site to be completely cleared by the end of the month. In San Jose, Tom Jensen, NBC Bay Area News.
That's just, I mean, like, I don't know, like, where, at this point, like, where do they fucking expect people to go? I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's not realistic to expect much to change here except people moving to a different place, right? And having to be moved, and how many times do we do this until we get them into a home? Good news is that, like they said, they have housed 150 people. There are another 100 or so units for another 100 or so people coming online, as they say, being finished as we speak. Literally right across 87 freeway from this site. So that's going to be targeted towards these folks as well. And sadly, not to be a shill for the city, but the city's under orders from the federal government to do this. So the city has pushed this deadline back as far as they possibly could go. This was supposed to happen at the end of last calendar year, and they have worked, pushed on the FAA to let them extend the deadline. But when the residents say, well, we thought we had until the end of the month, the city has until the end of the month to clear the space. It doesn't mean that you have until the end of the month to be in the space. So it's not like checking out at a hotel, right? Like the city has to, the city has to, get their stuff done. It's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate timing. But it is unfortunately what it is, and they've known for many months and years, in fact, that they would have to vacate this site. So it was in ways inevitable. But you're right. There aren't any big solutions that are going to help everyone. Hang on one second. I think I might have accidentally. There we go. Oh, goodness gracious. All right.
Okay. Well, it looks like we got Dr. Sarah Cody saying that things are going pretty well here on a different front here in San Jose.
Yeah, we've been one of the most, I guess, more restrictive counties, I'd say, since the beginning of the pandemic, because of, and for good reason, and we've been pretty healthy because of it. But now Dr. Sarah Cody, the most restrictive public health officer in the country, has loosened up the reins a little bit, loosened up the strings. So we're going to find out what's going on.
Today, Santa Clara County's health officer is rescinding the remaining few health orders that are on the books. It basically means that vaccinations and vaccination passports are no longer required for people working in high-risk settings, and that COVID testing is no longer required at large healthcare systems.
Santa Clara County has been one of the most conservative in the state, and rightly so. I mean, they've had some of the earliest deaths in the pandemic.
Infectious disease expert Dr. Peter Chin Hong says this rollback for the county makes sense.
Vaccinations are not important for prevention of transmission anymore. And we need to use a lot of tools, including masking in the most high-risk environments.
As we watch Bay Area counties roll back COVID mandates, it's important to note that masks are still required in hospitals and other medical facilities. UCSF infectious disease expert Dr. Monica Gandhi is keeping a close watch on the UK, where masking has been dropped in all healthcare and nursing home settings. She doesn't want to predict what will happen here.
We're going to have to understand that we're never going to eradicate COVID, unfortunately, because of its characteristics, because it's in 29 species of animals. What we need to do is keep our rates of severe disease low, which we've managed to do.
Doctors say rates are low because a large percentage of people in the Bay Area are vaccinated. Many doctors are recommending that people should keep wearing masks when in close contact with people you don't know. Cheryl Hurd, NBC Bay Area News.
Well, that's good news.
I would say so. I mean, there are some winners here, occasionally winners and losers. Are you still masking up when you go to public places indoors?
Like the grocery store, yeah, but maybe some other place, maybe the taqueria, not so much.
Is it sort of a case-by-case basis, like assessing risk and then, going from there? Or
I don't even know how I don't even know how I decide, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
It's like, oh shit, I forgot my mask. Well, do I want to go back a block and grab that shit, or do I just want to go get my taco? I want to go get my taco.
Something like that. Something like
right. I mean, Taco Bravo, you're already risking your life just eating there anyway, so it's not as though the mask is really going to save you from anything. Tostada Thursday.
Well, I'm across town now. We have different taquerias, but yes.
That's right. Oh my God. I think everything's going to change. Anyway, well, listen to Dr. Sarah Cody and have some fun. Take off the mask. Enjoy yourself. Definitely not the supermarket, though. Absolutely. I think any place where you've got a lot of people walking around like touching stuff, don't do it. Anyway, so now we're going to find out about another one of the losers here, and that's baristas. Apparently, the unionization or the organizing of Starbucks employees has come to Santa Clara, which is great. We'll have a story on that in Downballot soon. But unfortunately, it might not be in time to save these baristas from the great robot overlords.
Talk about coffee now because I love my coffee. This is a story we've been talking about all day in the newsroom. A robot barista at Stone Ridge. Okay, not unusual in itself, right? But it's the question the robot asks you after it makes your coffee. How much tip do you want to give me? What? Robot wants a tip? We had to send our
That's funny.
over to check
I think
it
it's
all
adorable.
out. All right, Scott. So a lot of people talking about this one. What the heck is going on? So you were able to see one of these robots asking for a tip?
Yeah,
they actually had a video of the robot after.
We've seen robots making us coffee, making us pizza, even making us alcoholic drinks at Mars, malls, airports, and this is another one. And the thing is,
in
now
Star Wars,
in the modern era, yes, a robot is going to make us coffee.
Okay.
We're going to pay with it on our phone. And a lot of these payment systems, whether PayPal or Square, it's all automated. You've seen the screen. You hold up your phone, and the next question is, hey, do you want to leave a tip? And some people are asking, that doesn't make any sense. It was literally a robotic arm that gave me the drink. What do I tip this? This guy isn't putting kids through college. She's not working her way through grad school. What does a robot need a tip for? And that's sort of what people are discussing.
And who's getting this tip? Like, who's actually getting this tip? Okay, so Scott, I've known you for a little over a year now. You are a great person. I could say that. My question for you is, did you tip? I'm guessing you did.
I did. I do at all these things. Yeah, well, and I love these things as a tech reporter. I love seeing a robot make me coffee, but I know there are people behind it that are putting the robot together, that are cleaning, that are making the pastries. That's where the tip goes. And if you think about it, these things I always check, are they taking away jobs? Not really. It's one arm that maybe is not handing you the coffee, but they're creating careers in robotics, in STEM. And there always has to be an actual person, like there is out at Stone Ridge, watching the robot and creating the whole atmosphere, not to mention making the pastry. So I want to know that that person is getting the tip. And so, yeah, I tip.
So before we even spoke, I was thinking, no way, I'm not tipping these robots. But now that you explained it, okay, I'm going to tip the robot.
There are humans behind the machines.
Okay, got it. Do you think we're going to be seeing more of these robots around soon?
I do, because they're efficient, the coffee is delicious, and because, again, you can do this as a career. Let's step back and say we're going to go into STEM, we're going to go into robotics, and you know what? We're going to see more of these all over the place.
There you go. Scott,
but like, but wait a minute. No, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I think that's a shitty argument. I kind of like this concept if your coffee shop can afford it, because I was a barista, and my brother also was a barista, or we didn't call ourselves fucking baristas at the time, but whatever. We fucking worked at a coffee shop. But when you're working solo behind the counter, it's like you're taking money, you're taking the order, right? And then you're going and making that order, and then you're giving it to that person, and you're coming back and you're taking the next order, right? And there's really no flow, and people are waiting for way too long. So having like a robotic arm or some robot behind me, like whipping the shit up as I'm taking the orders, right? And gabbing with the customers and providing that like human interaction that they so crave. That's why they came down to the shop instead of getting their own beans and grinding them at home. That would actually be really beneficial. And it probably wouldn't cost the employer too much, and it probably wouldn't reduce jobs in a greater sense of things, right? Because you're probably paying less even to maintain a robot arm like that over time than you are to an employee with healthcare benefits and all that shit. So you probably keep the employee and just have the robot arm there to supplement. So I'm actually all for that. But yeah, like, and hopefully the tip goes to the humans that work there. They share their tips. I'm sure the robot's very, very progressive about sharing tips. But yeah, I also still like the idea of someone with a lot of skill and hand-eye coordination fixing my foam.
Yeah, I don't know, but this idea that we're going to employ as many people in robotics as we do in like food service or whatever, or in customer service, it's fucking dumb.
No, it's not valid at all, right? Like if this was, if you consider this a job, right? Like you're hiring another employee, right? That job it doesn't equate, right? The person that created and invented that robot, they have the patent, and it's not like they're like getting a new job every time one of these gets hired, right? They've got their patent, and that's it, and they're making their money, and that's it. But that's the one person, right, making tons of money, not like Joe the engineer, right? Right. I guess there are factory jobs, I guess, to be made, building them. But they probably have robots building the fucking robots.
Yeah, they have robots to build them. Of course, they've got a coffee robot building robot that builds the coffee robot. Yeah, absolutely.
They reprogram the barista to build baristas. So it's so meta. God. Anyway, but yeah, still absolutely tip the robot. If there's a human, if you interacted with a human, if you see humans working for the company, I maybe they don't have it stipulated right there on the tip jar or whatever or on the screen, but they should be giving the tips to the humans. So more than like you're not tipping the robot, and hopefully you're not just lining the pockets of the owner.
So I don't listen to these stories or watch them beforehand because I like to kind of get hit by them cold. There's a couple things on for Sundays and Fridays that I have to watch beforehand because there might be some N-bombs or something in them.
Sure.
But this, I was hoping that the robot was like literally asking for a tip. That's what I was hoping for.
There is, I guess maybe it wasn't on NBC, but it might have been on one of the other networks. I want to say I saw a clip, or maybe it was NBC had it in a different clip. I want to say that they had the cute little, like, not Alexa, but like robot voice. You ever seen Short Circuit? You remember that movie?
Yeah.
It was like number 5. It was like, please consider giving me a tip. Number 5, need tip, you know?
That Short Circuit movie was a problem. That guy in Indian face. Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. The robot itself was adorable,
right?
But yeah, that the poor Indian engineer stereotype was pretty bad. It was on the level, on par with that Mickey Rooney character in Breakfast at Tiffany's, the upstairs Japanese neighbor, played by Mickey Rooney. So anyway,
so you know who's never going to be replaced until their job is outlawed, and you should always tip really well, is
the guy making
street vendors.
Yeah, the guy making the bacon wrapped hot dog outside of the football game. Right? My favorite.
And happening today, San Francisco launching a new crackdown on illegal street vendors. Now, that move is meant to eliminate what critics argue is one of the city's growing problems. And in some cases, final warnings were handed out yesterday. Today at the base, Ginger Conejero-Saab, she's live for us this morning. And Ginger, okay, it sounds like some argue that this new law targets certain communities more than others.
Well, that's what some advocacy groups are saying, Marcus. This legislation was passed several months ago and has been enforced here or there. But today, there is a bigger goal of really cracking down on illegal vendors, specifically in areas like San Francisco's Mission District, like 24th Street and BART Plaza. Now, if this happens, lawmakers who pass this legislation are hoping to reduce open-air drug markets that are also taking place in the area, and then also hoping that this will eventually lead to thieves cracking down on thieves stealing from brick and mortar businesses only to resell those goods on the streets. Now, the problem with cracking down on this, however, is that there are legitimate small businesses who for a long time have sold their goods there, and they are the ones that some advocacy groups are saying will get caught in the middle. Activists have already protested that the permit program will criminalize poor people of color, but local officials say otherwise. Supervisor Andy Ronan, who co-authored the legislation, has called the problem, quote, incredibly complex, and has said on Twitter that the illegal vending has become untenable and is causing problems for the whole neighborhood. Back in July, she said on Twitter in part, quote, it infuriates me to see a once beautiful and vibrant community space overrun by open-air drug markets and vendors selling stolen goods. So what happens now? Vendors can apply for a permit for $430. Now, that fee can be waived if they make less than 200% of the federal poverty level, which is under $25,700. Now, if they've also received Medi-Cal food stamps or a free Muni Pass, or if they are a qualified nonprofit, that may also mean that the fee is waived. Now, if the goods are confiscated today or sometime in the future, it can take up to 90 days to get those goods back. There are also fines associated with that, $250 for the first violation, and that can also grow up to $1,000 for the third violation. We know that San Francisco police will be accompanying Department of Public Works today as they make their rounds. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, not just today, but also in the longer run. Marcus?
Yeah, certainly interesting to see. And it is, like you said, tough for those, the legitimate businesses that are out there that now.
Like, what about the hot dog person? Like, if you come for the tamale lady, I'm coming for you.
Seriously, I mean, what the fuck is this? This is some sort of like or problem in search of a solution in search of a problem. It's a city, like we've talked about before, right? Like you and I talk about this a lot, right? Like the problems of, quote unquote, problems of a city, right? An open air market, right? An open air drug market, and an open air vendor market, legal, permitted, or otherwise, right? Crops up. Oh, amazing. It crops up around the BART station at 24th and Mission. Fucking shocking, right? It's an open space. It's a public plaza. What do you expect? People are going to try and make it, man. They're just trying to get by. They're trying to hustle and do their thing. And this is just what happens in a city. Why are we wasting our time cracking down when we know that to get that one person who's selling like fucking whatever lifted Gucci bags, right? You're going to shut down 10 mom and pops selling bacon wrapped hot dogs, right? and they're just trying to make a buck. They're not trying to sell any, trying to screw anybody. So why bother, man? This is so. It's like we're going to make mushrooms the lowest, priority. Fine. This should also be like the lowest priority. Why is this even an issue? Hillary Ronan. I don't even think Hillary represents this fucking area. I don't believe so. It's District 6. It was Matt Haney's district, so I think there's some appointed person representing the area. I think it's his district. Either way, Hillary Ronan, your white savior lady, like, go away. We don't need your help. You go figure out what to do in the sunset. Anyway, I think this is a solution in search of a problem, frankly speaking.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, like, I don't know. I think that, like, the vendors are cool. I know it makes it kind of hard to walk down the street sometimes or whatever, but that's life in the big city.
Right. It's like, good Lord. Have you been to New York City? I mean, frankly, it's because of tourism, but, walking through Manhattan, in some parts of Manhattan, like around Rockefeller Plaza, like around Christmas, where the trees out there, it's like a 10-minute walk just to get past the plaza. Like, it's packed wall to wall with people. And that's legit. That's legal. It's just like they want to come see the big tree, right? That's just what you get living in the city, right? And we should just embrace it. Maybe have a freaking bacon wrapped hot dog, Hillary. Jesus Christ!
Try it. You'll like it.
Oh, they're delicious. I'm gonna have one after this. I'm absolutely having hot dogs after this session with the good wife. I think I've already decided. Anyway, moving right along.
So next we have some maybe more reasonable regulation having to do with water and people with their fucking ornate gardens.
Yeah, we're supposed to be conserving, folks. I mean, we're in catastrophic drought, and it's not going to get any better, by the way. So we should even stop thinking about it as a drought and just a water crisis, or not even a water crisis. Just this is just how it's going to be. This is reality at this point. So start conserving now. If you don't, the water police are going to come get you. Damian Trujillo is going to let you know about it.
You'll be able to see a lot of green. Otherwise, get used to the color brown.
Like
the landscaping is beautiful around the Willow Glen Village. It welcomes shoppers to the local strip mall. But this greenery might soon be a thing of the past because the watering has to stop.
This ban applies to all commercial, industrial, and institutional properties, including homeowners associations.
Today, Valley Water added an enforcement component to its watering ban. After 2 warnings, repeat offenders could face fines of up to $10,000.
We do not want to go there. We want to not have to enforce any of those policies.
Merchants and shoppers at the Willow Glen Village would like to keep their greenery, but they
2 blocks from my mom's house.
It needs to go brown.
Well, it's a serious drought, so I guess I'd like to see everyone conserve
That's not my mom.
a bit more, so it doesn't have to all be completely dry.
Cuestión de prioridad, el agua es más necesaria.
This business owner says it's just a matter of priorities now.
Ooh, I've been there.
Parks and schools are exempt from the ban. Individual homeowners still have to abide by the 2 days a week rule with no runoff and no midday watering. And those restrictions appear to be working. For the first time, Valley Water says conservation countywide reached and even surpassed its 15% goal.
We're in a drought. We're in a severe drought. We call it a crisis. So people are paying attention and they're doing their part, and we're excited about that.
But the chair of Valley Water says the West Coast is in a big hole with no end to the drought in sight. So for the foreseeable future, in those places where the grass is only decorative, brown will have to be the new green. In San Jose, Damian Trujillo, NBC Bay Area News.
Just fucking put a rock formation or some shit out there.
Yeah, boo-hoo. I'm crying. We're really crying. This is coming from a guy who grew up in the Dub G in Willow Glen. Like, don't cry for me, Willow Glen. Jesus Christ. Get a fucking sundial and some rocks.
Get a sundial and some rocks.
Get a fucking sundial. Shit.
The sundial would be great, or like the little gargoyles and shit that people have.
Yeah, right? Oh, totally. I'm just thinking like decorative shit, right? Or a gnome. Get a gnome.
You know who probably wasn't wasting, who wasn't wasting a lot of water was that Flintstone house.
Hell no, right? Yeah, completely. They were doing it up. Fuck lawns when we can have huge decorative sculptures and caricatures and like a whole Alice in Wonderland vibe.
Like of that. Of the Flintstones even.
Of the Flintstones. Exactly. The modern Stone Age family. Well, speaking of the Stone Age, this dude's taking it back to the Stone Age. Apparently there's a plot of land in San Ho, up in Alviso, one of the most historically neglected parts of San Jose, unfortunately, that's been promised to be a park for a very long time. Not surprising. In Alviso, the city keeps saying, oh, we don't have the money to make the park. So this dude decided, like, fuck it, I'm going to build the park. But he's finding out it's like a little harder than he thought it might be. But he's still trying.
A South Bay man says he is tired of waiting. He's now trying to build the park that his neighborhood has been promised for decades. But the city of San Jose is balking, and that's triggered a war of words over dirt. Here's NBC Bay Area Scott Budman.
Dirty words.
It's going to take a while, but shovelful by shovelful, Mark Espinoza is determined to build a new park in his hometown of Alviso.
What you see here is just an empty field with weeds growing.
An empty field sitting on 3 acres of city-owned land on Grant Boulevard. Empty since the year 2000 and long identified as a place for a park. Espinoza says he's tired of waiting for a place the neighborhood can enjoy.
I'm fed up. I mean, enough is enough. I'm tired of being sick and tired, so I'm taking things into my own hands, and I want to clean the park up. I want to make it usable. I know, put some plants, put some grass, some benches, so people can come and enjoy a park that was intended for them.
So he's leading an effort to clean the area up. But
again, this work is unauthorized and constitutes trespassing.
San Jose's Parks and Recreation Department, which has jurisdiction over the would-be park, says Espinoza and those working with him are going rogue, and it won't help or fund construction of the park unless it's safe.
We've gone rogue.
From this stripping are kicked up, it can become a tripping hazard, and any below-grade infrastructure damage can be caused. So that means like water mains or power lines can be disrupted.
As to what happens next, well, Mark says he plans to continue to very gradually develop the park here. The city says if that's the case, they plan to issue a warning. In Alviso, Scott Budman, NBC, Bay Area News.
Uh-oh. Sun's out, guns out.
He's going to get a warning, everybody. Watch out. Well, Daniel's right from Parks and Rec Department. Like it's not, I won't say it's dangerous, but it's a little sketch to be, if he starts digging around and trying to, dig up and add like irrigation and shit. If he's just clearing the surface, right, and maybe even laying down some sod, not the worst thing in the world. And frankly, if the dude wants to pay for it and do it all himself, I'm okay with it, as long as he's not erecting any structures that people could theoretically like climb up on and fall off and hurt themselves. That's fine. No park horse, just a little path maybe, and then some grass, maybe some plant life.
Well, maybe not grass right now. Maybe a rock garden.
Right. Oh, that of course. Yeah, you don't want the water police after you. But someplace for the dogs to go. Maybe like a little dog run. That'd be kind of cool. So, more power to this guy. I understand. I think I've met Mark before on the after the circuit. And, like I said, Alviso is drastically under-resourced and drastically underrepresented and drastically forgotten, consistently forgotten. So, more power to them and let Alviso be Alviso for once. That's all I have.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm good with
that. So, who
that.
needs to get their shit together this week?
Apparently, it's PG&E.
Oh, shit. Who says so?
Sam Liccardo, but not for nothing. I don't know. After seeing what happened in Texas when it got really cold, PG&E, I don't know if it's just through luck or through the hardworking individuals who were out there in 110 or 115 degree heat, but the grid held.
As far as we can tell, maybe that's because of upgrades they've made recently, but for now, but apparently it did not hold in certain very key places like hospitals. So that's part of what the mayor was using as his leverage to make a big political splash out of this opportunity.
There's been a lot of this across the Bay Area this week. In fact, a PG&E worker repairing a busted line is one of many heat exhaustion reports today.
We are really being reminded just how difficult it is to work in these conditions. We're reminding all of our
coworkers to be safe out there, take rest breaks, make sure they stay cool, make sure they stay hydrated, and stay safe.
The good news, Kaiser Permanente in Santa Clara and San Jose says it has not seen a jump in heat-related emergency visits, but they still ask residents to take precautions. Some of its patients say they're fed up with the heat and all the flex alerts.
Oh my gosh, the heat, it's so bad. I lived in Phoenix for 10 years. I didn't think I'd have to experience this again. It's just awful.
Brutal. I am so done. And I run hot, so it just makes it even worse.
The mayor of San Jose says he's done too. Mayor Sam Liccardo issued a news release blasting PG&E for what he says are infrastructure failures that left nearly 100,000 San Jose residents in the dark this week, including 3 San Jose hospitals. The mayor says if PG&E doesn't present a plan to immediately repair and replace its infrastructure, the city will seek a court injunction to force it to do so.
We're having really good conversations with the mayor. I value and respect him. I appreciate that he is advocating for my city that I was born and raised in.
The utility says it already replaced 700 transformers across the city in the last couple years, and it too is frustrated with the outages.
This is historic. It is unacceptable. We all rely on power. It is absolutely essential to our quality of life.
The mayor says he's concerned about the safety of residents and the viability of small businesses that have to shut down because of the outages. My phone says it's 103 right now in Campbell, but the good news is it only feels like 102. PG&E storm, and as of noon today, there were 824 customers without power in Santa Clara County. You can expect that number to go up in the next couple of hours. We're live in Campbell. I'm Damian Trujillo, NBC Bay Area News.
Why did they have him out there in like a reflector? That was weird.
Who knows? There might have been some prior. He was on site at the power substation, and they require people to wear that stuff. It could be, but or he just wanted to look cool and like he was in danger. Danger, Damien. At Danger Damien on Twitter. So you're right. Given that this was historic heat we saw last week, in fact, the highest temperature ever recorded in the Bay Area, at least in the last 150 years since they've been recording, was recorded in Livermore last week, 116 degrees. Holy shit. It was brutally hot. It hit 111 here in San Jose. Despite all that, we still managed to avoid massive blackouts. Like we didn't experience any here in our place, the good wife and I. And we were very good about running our limited AC just before the flex hours, right? And not doing any laundry or cooking during the flex hours, waiting until after 9. So good on us. I think collectively we did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, but if you would have watched, like if you were watching right-wing Twitter or whatever, you would have seen everybody go, "Oh, your power grid failed," and it's like, no, it didn't.
Right?
no, it didn't.
Not like Texas.
They're like, "Oh, you can't charge your electric car between these hours," and it's like, but you people hate electric cars.
Right? It's not a failing grid. That's a well-functioning grid. It's a grid that understands that there are peaks out there, and the reason why it's a peak hour and why it's important to conserve during those hours, it's because people are still even during conservation are using a shit ton of energy at those times, right? They're using electricity to do these things. They're not conserving, right? There are plenty of people out there that are charging their car or charging their or running their stove or running their dishwasher or their dryer or their washer during these hours. That's why they're asking everyone to cut back, because too many people are. So just because some people cut back, like you, me, and whoever the next person, does not mean that some people are still not spending or using way too much energy during those peak hours. And we're just trying to balance it out so that the grid doesn't fail. That's responsible. That's not, it's not neglect. It's responsible. So more power to us, man. But yeah, the need to have our own local utilities and the need to get each of our own households off the grid is very apparent. Just so we can avoid any kind of issues like this or any sort of uncertainty when it comes to our energy needs.
Fuck yeah. Well,
yeah,
that was Get Your Shit Together. We're going to move on to Down Ballot Watch, where we take a look at local political issues that are specifically political. Everything's fucking political, but these things are like having to do with city and county governments around the Bay Area. Turns out 1 in 3 San Jose police officers faced some kind of formal complaint, I suppose, in 2021.
Yeah, man. If public safety is still one of the top issues, you're going to see this come up during the city council and mayor's race coming up in November. So let's hear a little bit more.
Well, Sebastian Gorka has something to say about it first, if that's okay.
Oh, that's
police officers, they've gone insane.
And every three San Jose police officers has some kind of complaint lodged against them just within the past year. Good evening. I'm Julie Hayner.
And I'm Mike Maybach. Tomorrow night, the San Jose City Council will discuss this along with some of the other findings in the auditor's annual report. New at 6, KTVU's South Bay reporter Mark Sayre has the story.
The independent police auditor reports directly to the city council and is outside the police department's chain of command. The goal is to increase confidence in the department by community engagement, making recommendations, and making sure that complaints about officer misconduct are investigated.
This office is very important.
Retired Judge Ladoris Hazard Cordell was the San Jose Independent Police Auditor for 5 years. While she says the office has no power to actually mandate changes, it does have the ability to bring issues of concern to the public.
And one of its goals has always been to increase transparency in policing, because by doing that, you then increase trust from the community.
In 2021, the IPA received 333 complaints against San Jose PD officers, which included 1,000 allegations that officers violated procedure or the law. That's up 24% from 2020.
So I'm not surprised by that at all. And I don't think that that number itself says very much. What you want to look at are what kinds of allegations are contained in those complaints.
In 2021, 16% of those complaints contained use of force allegations, and nearly 1/3 of all sworn officers had at least one complaint lodged against them.
It is not a statement that 1/3 of the San Jose Police Department officers engage in misconduct. No. It is a statement that they were the subject of complaints, but we don't know how many of those complaints were actually justified.
The report says the department received more than 120 allegations of bias-based policing or racial profiling, but they sustained none of them. The IPA also reviewed 240 closed internal affairs investigations, agreeing with 82% of the conclusions, but disagreeing or having concerns with the rest. Cordell says this raises one overarching issue.
The police, be it San Jose, Los Angeles, San Francisco, doesn't matter, should never investigate themselves. Never. There should be independent entity that conducts an investigation into police misconduct.
This latest report by the independent police auditor will be discussed by the city council at its regular meeting here on Tuesday afternoon. Reporting in San Jose, I'm Mark Sayre, KTVU Fox 2 News.
And that was today. And we'll have more about what happened on Downballot.
I mean, it's not too surprising that like 1/3 of cops have a complaint against them or whatever in any city. San Jose, whatever. Like it's it maybe goes with the territory, but on the other hand, they should be doing everything they can to like reduce that number and try to like, I don't know, the fucking cops though. Like, what am I saying?
Right. Well, I mean, there's a few things here to unpack, and that's a whole different. It's a very special episode of Downballot at some point to talk about this issue and what's going on with SJPD specifically. But at the end of the day, it's not so much the volume of the complaints that are lodged, right? Because we all know we're a complaint-driven culture, and a lot of times, especially in this space, things can get politicized. Not for electoral reasons, but just politicized, right, in general, and emotional, and complaints can get filed for a lot of reasons. However, that being said, the fact that none are sustained, right, when you hear things like that, when you hear whatever the number is of complaints, and you hear 0 were sustained or 0 instances that I found, reasonable cause, right? You're right. Like, you're investigating yourself. Who are we relying on to make that judgment, right? So yes, absolutely, there should be independent oversight with teeth. The independent police auditor, unfortunately, in San Jose, is just that. It's an auditor. They audit things after they happen. They audit cases and they audit convictions and they audit investigations after the fact, just to say, oh, well, this was good, this was bad, this was done well, this was done poorly. Here's how you could do better. But they have no authority to say, like, no, let that person out of jail because this investigation was faulty. They just have the ability to recommend to the city that their investigation was faulty. So there needs to be some teeth. There needs to be some sort of independent oversight. And that's what these other cities, reference, in other cities that have issues like this where, probably a third of the officers do have complaints against them. That's what they have that we don't. We don't have in San Jose an independent review board, person, entity, body, whatever it is, that has teeth, that can actually get an officer fired, that can actually removed, right? They can actually do something rather than just issue a recommendation or a report. And that's all the IPA in San Jose can do right now.
So one would think that the city and county government would be the oversight with teeth, that the board of supervisors or the city council would be that thing. But it seems like the city councils and the board of supervisors, not just here, but when we look at other places, when we watch some of these meetings and stuff, we find that the city councils and the board of supervisors are scared shitless of the police union.
Yeah, they're not independent enough, right? They are elected. And just by nature of being elected, they are, I guess, they can be made. There are partialities. There are conflict of interest arguments that can be made, and they're susceptible, right, to issues like that. Not to say that some appointed people on a commission wouldn't be either, right? It always comes back to, okay, who's making the appointment? Who's appointing these people that serve on this independent body, right? How is this independent body formed? There's got to be someone involved in informing it, right? So it's not entirely independent when it comes down to it, right? Whether they're appointed, elected, self-identified, I don't know, right? A lot of times it's like pulling teeth and dragging people into doing these jobs in the first place on these commissions. But it's really problematic, like who's appointing them, right? So there's really no perfect solution to it, but creating another layer never hurts at all. The city council or the board of supervisors, they shouldn't really be wading into like HR issues like that and issues that could in fact impact people's jobs and like the weeds like this. They're good for setting policy and setting the policy that oversees the oversight, right? Setting maybe the parameters and the rubric that the oversight committee uses in their work, right? But they should not be involved in like adjudicating individual cases.
Because that's not what I meant. I mean, they fire the fucking police chief.
Yeah, correct. Well, the city council can actually only hire or fire the city manager. Technically, at the end of the day, the city manager hires all the other department heads, including the police chief. The city council has to approve of the hire, right? And they have some veto power there. But the city manager, at the end of the day, hires and fires them and chooses who they want in those roles. So they can hire and fire the city manager, and they could theoretically fire the police chief too. But they basically have to ask the city manager to fire the police chief. Technically.
Yeah,
it's a twisted web we weave in public service.
But I mean, that's not the case in every city, right? Like each city, each place, the structure is a little bit different.
Sure, it's different. The way in San Jose it works is a lot like a board of directors and a CEO, right? The city manager is the CEO. They're a paid head of the company, right? And then the board of directors is the city council, and so they have oversight over that. The CEO has to justify their existence and report to the city council or the board of directors. And then the board of directors can, nix or yay anything that the CEO wants to do, right? That's how Matt Mahan, the candidate for mayor, is really like tries to pitch it. Like, I know what it's like to have to respond to a board, and I know how to deliver results because as a CEO of tech company, Tech Bro had to, justify my existence and make these reports and deliver results. So we need to deliver results as a city, otherwise. Because the people are our board of directors. So we need to deliver results to you, and you have a chance to hire or fire us based on the results.
I see that motherfucker signs all over my new neighborhood.
Yeah, well, you're in his neighborhood actually. You're in his district now, District 10, I do believe. The revolution of common sense, which my brother pointed out was a subtle, I think, reference to Thomas Paine, which he does not deserve at all, because it's not at all what he's about. But anyway, there are a bunch of smart asses on that campaign. That's all I'll say about that.
So we're going to go up to Sacramento, state government stuff. Here's Gavin Newsom apparently opposing a new tax on the rich. Let's see what our local news has to say about this.
As we enter election season, there are all sorts of interesting storylines. Tomorrow, a new ad starts airing featuring Governor Newsom on the same side as the California Republican Party. This is all about Prop 30. Here's NBC Bay Area's Terry McSweeney.
The anti-Prop 30 commercial hitting the airwaves tomorrow warns Californians about what Governor Newsom calls a Trojan horse.
Prop 30 is being advertised as a climate initiative, but in reality, it was devised by a single corporation to funnel state income taxes to benefit their company.
The governor is referring to the ride-sharing company Lyft, which has already contributed $15 million to the Yes on 30 campaign. Prop 30 calls for a 1.75% tax on those making $2 million per year or more. The $3 to $4 billion raised annually would help people buy electric vehicles, pay for charging stations, and help reduce smoke pollution by fighting and preventing wildfires. We reached out to Lyft, but did not hear back. But like California environmental voters and the Construction Trade Council of California, the Coalition for Cleaner Air is surprised the governor opposes Prop 30.
Does the governor want to deny millions of Californians the ability to drive an electric car just because a few of them might drive for Lyft? That's really odd because his programs have exactly the same effect.
Like the state Republican Party and the California Teachers Association, the Howard Jarvis Tax Association agrees with the governor.
He, I think, correctly stated that this was a special interest money grab by one ride-sharing company, Lyft, to try to offload some of the expenses that it has to incur to comply with some of the climate change policies.
We have a history in this state of using the ballot to forward the views of particular groups. And this is yet another. There may be benefits out of it, but the question is, at what cost?
Terry McSweeney, NBC Bay Area News.
Guess what?
What?
Nobody to root for.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not in this one. It's really interesting though to see, like, look at a list of opponents or supporters and see the California Teachers Association, Gavin Newsom, and then the Republican Party, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Chamber of Commerce on the same list. It's really odd. There's good reason though there for it, right? Like this is actually it could be a real boon for electric car adoption and wildfire prevention and a lot of good environmental things. And we're taxing the rich at the end of the day. This is a tax increase on people making $2 million or more per household a year. And it does fund those things. It does do all those things. And none of the money is going directly to Lyft or any other company or proponent of the measure, in fact. However, it benefits them in that it incentivizes people to buy electric cars. And Lyft and Uber and these other ride-sharing companies have all are all under state mandates now, according to state law, to by, I think, 2030, they have to make sure that 90% of the miles they log are in electric vehicles. So it makes sense that they help their drivers. They do everything they can to help their drivers afford electric vehicles, right? And get into them so that they can meet their own goals and existential goals, right? That the state is mandating. So really, they're actually trying to comply with the state mandate, which is about environmental sustainability. So can you really blame them? The surprising thing to me actually is especially after reading a couple of stories about this bill or the initiative, Lyft is the primary funder and proponent of it. Uber is not really involved. DoorDash, these other groups, the ones that were really behind AB5 and changing state labor, or trying to push back on state labor law, Prop 22, right, a couple of years ago, that succeeded. They're not involved. Like it's really Lyft carrying a lot of the weight on this, which is surprising, I guess, because Uber has bigger market share, I think, than Lyft does, and DoorDash certainly has a good market share in this. So interesting that they're not engaged in this at all, and they're just sort of letting things happen. Maybe they're saving their money and figuring it's going to pass or not pass, and they'll figure things out.
Not really, because of the way Lyft has positioned themselves, like as a like a less shitty alternative to a company like Uber. That's been their marketing the whole time, is that they're like less shitty than Uber. Like that's not really a high bar. I'm not saying that it's like like
we don't rape you. Our drivers won't rape you,
right? Or something like that. But I mean, that's just sort of how they position themselves, how they market themselves, and how they want to be viewed as 100%. Like the slightly less. I don't know if they probably want to be viewed as the good alternative to Uber, but they're the slightly less shitty alternative to Uber. And I think like backing something that seems to be like taxing the rich and helping the environment kind of fits in with what I know about what they're trying to present themselves as in the marketplace of ideas.
Yeah, very good point. And they're certainly making good friends out of groups and organizations that were not their friend when they were pushing Prop 22, right? Along with Uber and DoorDash. So they're making friends with the Democratic Party. They're making friends with some labor unions, but building trades are behind this measure. Other labor groups are behind this measure. So, they're making friends with the enviros. So good on them. Smart positioning, frankly, and it's probably not costing them a ton of money in the greater scheme of things. Because politics costs a lot of money, elections cost a lot of money, but when you're talking about money that these big corporate entities, these big tech giants are making and pulling in, it's chump change. Like the amount of influence like a company like the 49ers can have in a city like Santa Clara, it's just immense. They can own the city's politics with a very minimal investment that's really not even like a skin off their nose. Chump change.
And not for nothing, that fucking stadium didn't exactly do great things for the city of Santa Clara, did it?
No, it didn't do everything. It hasn't done everything it was supposed to do, right? It has benefited them. It has brought them a lot of revenue and money. It's also brought them a lot of problems too. So, and the Niners still, rule Santa Clara politics when it comes down to it. They can get you elected or unelected, no matter how long you've been there.
For sure. Well, we're going to move on to and another thing.
Yes, sir.
This is just about flies in Pleasanton.
Yeah, we like to do animal interest, but this is a pet. this is a pest interest, insect interest. Different.
Pleasanton is buzzing about a problem that everyone is complaining about: flies. Businesses say there are so many flies, customers are now avoiding the downtown corridor, and the heat isn't helping the situation. NBC Barry's Ian Cole is there to find out just how bad it is.
Visit downtown Pleasanton and you may see a whole lot of swatting or shaking. Everyone notices it. Flies are an issue.
Right now there are flies all over me.
Residents say it's unusually bad and the heat only seems to make it worse.
So we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so we've been teaching them shoo fly, don't bother me.
Oh, that's fun.
Flying around, so I just turned the camera on myself to highlight the problem. Businesses are going to great lengths to shoo them away, this one bleaching the sidewalk to deter the flies. Some downtown workers say they've seen a difference. Outdoor seating has dropped off as people opt to dine indoors in hope of fewer unwanted guests.
I went with my friends for brunch one day, and we kind of just said we're not going to come to downtown to eat until this problem goes away.
We started seeing the flies when the heat started coming.
Inklings Coffee and Tea has purchased fly-catching devices, even a carnivorous plant to eat them up.
We're willing to try anything, and it's definitely helped, but it's everywhere downtown right now.
So what can be done? No one seems to know the cause, but a few theories are swirling around. Most have hired exterminators, and some say it's improving. The city of Pleasanton declined our request for an interview, but said in a statement, the city takes steps to address pests in general, and staff is currently working with Alameda County Vector Control to understand the additional contributing factors this year, and if so, how this can be addressed.
I really hope that, this problem can be solved. It's a very difficult problem to solve if you don't know why the problem is happening.
In Pleasanton, Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
I have a guess. Sometimes there's flies outside.
Sometimes there are flies outside. They live outside and sometimes inside. And there's restaurants and there's food on plates outside. And flies like food. So they land on the food and then they make more flies. And then those flies fly around and land on the food. Yeah, it's a it's just self-fulfilling prophecy. You put food outside, flies are going to eat it.
Yeah, there's
Sorry.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. You just wait out the flies. You just wait until there's a time when there's no flies anymore, and then there's no flies anymore, and then you don't have flies, and then there's no problem with the flies.
Or you can call the Lord of the Flies and have them clear the fucking shit out.
You can. So I think that's a non-issue, but I do like that our animal interest segment this week was about flies and the people of Pleasanton, and I do feel sorry for that poor girl and her brunch friends. I know that it's like live, laugh, and I can't think of an L word that has anything to do with flies. So I'm sorry.
It's a tragedy that they couldn't have their avocado toast without being, harassed by the flies and the fruit flies.
It's live, laugh, limitless mimosas.
There you go. Well, it's a different kingdom. It's not so much animal interest. It is a different kingdom. So insect interest this week on Downballot. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you want to read us out?
Absolutely. Like I said, thank you, listener. Thank you, viewer. We would be nowhere without you. So please subscribe on Twitch. Follow us on all the places. Download the podcast and share it with your friends. We do this every Tuesday night live right here at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, leading into Local Love, our fantastic local music show. Please stay tuned after that for producer Dave and all the fine tunes that he and Chip DeVille and the Media Wench can provide for you. Anyone special on the docket for this evening?
Yeah, the band is called Rotterdam, and Local Love isn't my show, actually. I don't host Local Love.
Oh, damn. So you're just like, kicking back, pounding some brews and watching from the sidelines.
Yeah. And
like
everybody, I'm pretty tired, so there'll be no post game after Local Love tonight.
Fair enough.
Thanks everybody for hanging out for Downballot. You can check out our new swag shop at eplex.store. There's a bunch of great stuff there. I recommend the Downballot shirt or the Downballot coffee mug. There's a bunch of others. There's a bunch of other stuff there too, and people have been using the gift feature in chat where people can gift each other items. So maybe we'll get a little of that action going on during Local Love tonight. Don't miss the Intellectual Dollar Tree tomorrow night. HK and I will be finishing our Gore Vidal versus William F. Buckley debate series from 1968. It's nice. the early marketplace of ideas. Check out all of our shows here on Echoplex Media. If you're sitting there live, hang out. Local Love starts in 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And I'm going to get this camera fixed. See you next week, Councilman.
Take off your pants. Later.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing green. Here at the front of the stage waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later we're all singing Queen. I get the fuck up on stage and rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink, spark it if you got it, and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, you're the sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is the jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Yeah, 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 yeah. Just sit back and enjoy the band. So sit back, just sit back and enjoy the band. We just do what we want and enjoy what we want is the jam. So sit back, just enjoy the band. Just sit back and